Frank Castle holds a unique position in the superhero universe. He is neither a traditional hero nor a conventional anti-hero. The Punisher has no superpowers. What sets him apart is his absolute determination, emotional detachment, and his acceptance of living within moral gray areas. Frank Castle's story is an unsettling examination of where justice begins and where it truly ends. Let's dive deeper. The identity born from trauma. Frank Castle's psychological breakdown. At the core of Frank Castle's transformation lies extreme trauma. The systematic murder of his family before his eyes is not merely a loss. It represents the severing of Frank's bond with humanity itself. In psychology, such an event is defined as complex trauma. Traumas of this kind fundamentally alter an individual's sense of identity, mechanisms of empathy, and moral compass. After this trauma, Frank Castle is unable to complete the grieving process because grief requires acceptance. Frank refuses to accept. For him, his family did not simply die, they were murdered. This distinction shapes his entire mental universe. The Punisher does not heal trauma. He turns it into a weapon. The soldier mindset. Frank Castle is not a civilian. To understand Frank Castle, he must not be viewed as a man fighting crime in the city, but as a soldier who continues to live by battlefield logic. He never truly left the war, only the front lines changed. In military psychology, the enemy is clearly defined. There are no gray areas. If a threat exists, it is eliminated. In Frank Castle's mind, the city is not a place governed by a legal system. It is a territory under enemy occupation. For this reason, Frank does not empathize with criminals. He does not see them as people who lost their way, but as active threat elements. To him, a criminal is not someone to be rehabilitated, but a target to be neutralized. This is the fundamental point that separates Frank from classic superheroes. The Punisher's moral framework, deontology or consequentialism. Frank Castle's moral system may appear chaotic at first glance, but it is actually highly consistent. He operates under a consequentialist moral framework. If a criminal is allowed to live, innocent people may die. The system may fail. Crime may repeat itself. If the criminal dies, the threat is completely eliminated. For Frank, this equation is clear. He rejects Kantian deontology, that is, the idea that killing is always wrong under all circumstances. Instead, he aligns with the utilitarian approach. The action that prevents the greatest harm to the greatest number of people is the right one. However, there is a critical fracture here. Frank Castle places himself outside moral judgment. He does not claim that what he does is good. He only claims that it is necessary. At this point, the Punisher does not see himself as a hero, but as the man who does the dirty work. The Punisher as a self-punishing figure. One of Frank Castle's least discussed yet most critical aspects is this. The Punisher does not only punish criminals, he punishes himself as well. Frank carries survivor's guilt. He lived while his family died. As a result, his existence becomes a deliberately pain-filled one. There is no pursuit of happiness, peace, or a normal life. From a psychological perspective, Frank is a man waiting to die but not permitted to do so. His constant exposure to danger, repeated injuries, and enforced isolation function as an unconscious form of self-destruction. The Punisher's skull is more than a symbol. It is Frank Castle's tombstone. Conflict with other heroes, Batman, Daredevil, and the question of the line. The Punisher's conflicts with other superheroes are, at their core, ideological conflicts. Characters like Batman and Daredevil treat the principle of never killing as sacred, because for them, once that line is crossed, there is no turning back. Frank, however, argues that this line has already been crossed. In his view, Batman captures criminals. The system releases them, the same criminals kill again. Frank Castle accuses other heroes of hypocrisy. In his eyes, they keep their hands clean, but the consequences are soaked in blood. At this point, the Punisher forces the audience to confront an unsettling question. If you could have stopped someone and chose not to, aren't you also responsible for the crimes they commit afterward? The Punisher character can become a dangerous figure when misinterpreted in the real world. Frank Castle represents the extreme end of individual justice. The idea of an armed individual replacing the rule of law is a serious threat to modern society. Marvel is aware of this, which is why the Punisher is never presented as a figure to be emulated. He is a warning. There is no hope in Frank Castle's world. His path is not sustainable. He is merely a symptom that emerges when the system collapses. What does Frank Castle represent? The Punisher is not a product of justice, but of injustice. He's born where the system fails. Frank Castle's existence forces a disturbing question. If justice truly worked, would there be any need for the Punisher? Frank Castle is not a hero. He's not a solution either. He is the embodiment of the darkness that society chooses to ignore. And perhaps that is why the Punisher remains as unforgettable as he is unsettling.